them on my
boys.
It's not quite as good without a can.
Yeah.
Well,
Unless you do it where you like pop it off with your eye socket.
Tape measure
But I
trick?
don't recommend that.
Dude, it's crazy. I saw a YouTube video of it. It's a bunch of drunk construction workers. They take their tape measure and they stretch it out really long, and they do the pull. They do the release mechanism, and it slings back up really far. But right before it gets there, they have the bottle cap ready to get popped by the tab, and it yanks the bottle cap off. I'm telling you, dude, we need to do it on stream around all your valuable stuff.
Yeah, right in front of all those armies.
Let's do it like right over the streaming PC.
Yeah. Around all the
do it right over the
fragile
dice rock,
electronics.
so it touches
Yeah.
everything.
Yeah.
Exactly.
That'll be fun.
I'll post
what's
that
up?
GIF in the Discord later. Anyway.
All right, we'll try it. What's up, Alpha Omega?
Alpha
Hell
Omega,
yeah, brother.
All right.
let us know if you know where Slambo is right now.
I should start hiding Slambo in these.
That'd be pretty fun.
I'm just saying, like, if he knows where it is in your house without even being able to see it.
True.
Yeah.
He's
And
got
then,
that
like,
sixth sense.
Slambo could come home with one of us so that you're looking for it on Jordan's screen, but he's actually like on my screen type thing, or hiding in Ryan's like purple dome or whatever's going on back there.
My
I don't
purple
actually know
dome.
where
I'm just trying to
Slambo is
match
right
the
now.
after dark colors a little bit.
Oh, true. I didn't even turn my lights on and stuff.
Yeah, I'm over here looking
What am I
professional.
doing?
Y'all are
Y'all
just
Hold on.
busting.
Jordan just got shot by a Necron shooting phase. Just hit Jordan right there. Oh my god!
He just cracked the door to the room to the Golden Throne
There we
for a
go.
split second.
Right.
That's how I'm gonna do my dramatic entrances now.
Nice. Oh, that's good. I like that.
Yeah. Yeah. Today we're gonna talk about a very not controversial at all topic. So, as you all know, the old world is coming up, probably on the shelf near the gaming table. I don't know. I'll let you know after stream. 'Cause
probably
I don't
still-
actually know.
He's probably still on the gaming table if I'd hazard a guess, standing on that building.
Could be, yeah.
He's not. I've moved stuff around to like
Oh, okay.
pictures and stuff. But yeah, we'll figure that out later. But for now, we're gonna talk about the old world. Pre-orders were this past weekend, right? I think Saturday. And then I think the game comes out not this upcoming weekend, but the following weekend.
20th, I'm pretty sure. Yeah.
Yeah. So we don't, I guess, technically know how it's all going to go when it actually comes out. But we've already had influencers with the boxes and stuff like that. We already have a lot of information just from GW themselves. So we can form some opinions about how they've handled the launch of this kind of new game system. As opposed to what they've done in the past with like Horus Heresy and new editions of 40k and stuff like that. So I have some thoughts. I think my takes are going to be a little bit more lukewarm than you're expecting, because there's a little bit of good and a little bit of bad, I think. But overall, I don't know. I'll kind of get into my overall opinions at the end of it, I guess. After I go through all of my different thoughts. But just initially, I'm a little disappointed. What about you guys?
I guess I've missed all the drama. I haven't really been paying attention to like Reddit or anywhere, or like watching videos on all this stuff. I'm just like, yay, old world. That's fun. I was a little bit bummed that because I used to play Dark Elves, so like I wanted Dark Elves to have like full support at the start of this. So I was, obviously a little bummed, but I didn't really think it was that big of an issue. But apparently some people are taking more offense to that than I am.
Yeah.
But I'll let you guys talk about.
Biggest, most public.
Yeah, I want to hear what the drama points are, because since I'm kind of out of the loop on that, and then I guess I'll give my take on it all. But I'm generally hyped for it. I'm excited.
Yeah.
Can't wait to play.
What about you, Matt?
Dude, I am so friggin' hyped for this game. Holy shit. I'm all in, man. I actually think that of all the ways that a launch of a game like this could have gone, because of how many unique weirdness and challenges there are with launching this type of game with this kind of like expectation and anyway, it went about as well as it could have. It could have gone a little bit better, but I think they dodged some pretty serious problems that a lot of people were expecting. So compared to how it could have gone, I think this has gone off stellar, in my opinion.
Yeah.
So, yeah.
All right.
Like I guess the way I see it is there's like a couple of ways they could have done the launch.
Mhm.
Like there's a couple of options. Let's say option one is they do some just incredibly massive drop where every army is getting like a new book and a refresh of some kind. Because I don't think they're refreshing all the mentors, but they're making some new ones. And they either like do that all at once or they spread out across the year. Both of those I think are kind of unrealistic because they're taking like they ended the old world for a reason financially. Uh, take that decision however you want. They had reasons for doing that.
Right.
So them relaunching it is a calculated risk on their part. So it's unrealistic to expect them to have like come out with new stuff for every army from the get go, or even have like a roadmap where they're promising that. Option two is they only target a certain number of armies. It's like this is the scope of Warhammer Old World. This is all we're doing. We're only going to support these 3 armies, for now. Although they probably never would say for now, because then that's promising stuff in the future.
Yeah.
That's a bad. That's a realistic option, but it's also kind of a bad one because then people are left out in the cold. And then option three is like what they did. They basically said we're going to support these armies. We're going to focus on them because the scope of the game is it's not going to be one of their main products. But we're also going to create these indexes so everyone who played in the old world before can have rules for their army. And they haven't said they've said that only that small list of armies is going to get support. I have to imagine if the game makes enough money, they're going to come out with other seasons or whatever they want to call them, years, eras, ages, whatever, where they focus on other armies and build them up. That's like a realistic approach that doesn't like leave anyone left out. Although people, I guess, still felt left out. I think they're expecting too much. People want it to be exactly what it used to be, fully supported, one of the main, IPs of the company, and that's just not going to happen because
Yeah.
So
it wasn't making money before.
yeah,
Yep.
like obviously the biggest elephant in the room right now is the whole legacy factions thing. It, I think that it is relatively not that big of a deal, I guess. Because you're right, it absolutely makes like financial sense for them to not overcommit to a game system that people might not fully latch onto. Like, who knows where Old World is gonna be in like a year, right? Because look at Horus Heresy. Like, there was a lot of hype for Horus Heresy, like the new edition when that launched, and I've heard jack shit about it since then. I think most of that is because they didn't really live up to the level of support that they promised. So I think that it's smart for them to be like, here's exactly what we can promise, like up front. These specific armies, we're not overcommitting, we're not overextending by, bringing in Skaven and Dark Elves and whatever the legacy factions were. From both like a rules perspective, like we're not going to make new rules for these armies, and also like a modeling perspective. Like, we're not going to make new models for these. We're not going to re-release their whole ranges or anything like that.
Well, I think they are making. They're technically making new rules. They're just not.
Sure, they're not making whole new. What are they called? Arcane somethings, arcane tomes.
Arcane tomes. Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah, they're not making like lots of fancy new war gear and stuff for them. There's probably gonna be like a sort of standard war gear list that those armies can take from, like a sort of striking. It's like these are things that used to be in Warhammer back, when a new edition came out and armies didn't have army books yet. There was some general war gear and like skills you could take. I imagine they'll have access to that.
Yeah.
But yeah,
It's pretty interesting. The way that they did it means that even if this game falls flat on its face and dies like before the end of 2024, essentially what they've done is they've breathed life into this game that people have been asking for like when did Age of Sigmar come out? Like 10 years ago at this point. Like they nuked that stuff I think about 10 years ago.
I think it was 2015.
It's
nine
been a
years.
hot minute. So it's at the absolute worst, it is a redo of a rule set that takes from all the best parts of what people liked about Middle Hammer and End Hammer, like the Middle Era and the End Era, and a little bit of stuff from the New Era, from what I can tell, and brings it together. And every single army is playable like today. Now that does include the legacy stuff, but we still got to see like how thorough those PDFs are. We don't know if they're going to be like 8th edition Legends bad, or if they're going to be as thorough as possible. The scuttlebutt is that they're actually as fleshed out as the indexes are, and they're so fleshed out that Adepticon wants to support them in their tournament scene. Now, that's just some shit I read on Reddit, but I want to believe, so fucking Scully and Mulder me up on that.
Yeah.
Dude,
I'm guessing they're not like making new sculpts and busting out the old, like, reworking some of the old models for those factions. I don't know if they're gonna like resell any of them, maybe on demand. That's the part I'm the most curious about.
Here's the thing with the old ones.
Production for those.
So a lot of the old factions, when you look at that list, is factions that you can heavily invest in for Age of Sigmar, right? So the Skaven aren't represented in Old World, except for the Legends PDF that they're going to get. The entire Skaven line is pretty much from... The entire Skaven line that was in 8th edition is in Age of Sigmar at this point, I'm pretty sure. I'm not even sure. I want to say that aside from like hero units and stuff, that there are going to be like some like named factions that don't work, but that's from like those packs of what's that game that we were just talking about, where it's like it's a hex grid and you move the pieces around and they got the cards. It's not Watergrave or Water
Underworld.
What's it called? Underworlds. There we go. I always want to say Watergrave or Waterdeep. Anyway, it's not going to be like that with like exclusivity, but you could just call like, this is Mega Rat Lieutenant, or I don't know. I don't play Skaven, so I don't really get it. But if you look at the model line, all the old world stuff, or excuse me, all the Legends PDF stuff is used today by Skaven AOS armies. That also applies for demons.
Right.
That also applies for there's another one that is pretty much like pretty firmly in that camp. And apparently
Lizardmen.
Lizardmen. There we go.
The one I'm worried about
is Grave Lords too. Yeah, vampires.
Yeah, the one I'm worried about is Dark Elves, because like with the new Cities of Sigmar stuff, they're not making any new elf models for that. It's all humans with like ogres and stuff.
So here's the thing. A leaker that is pretty prolific, that apparently is like never wrong, has basically said Chaos Dwarves are coming to Age of Sigmar, which explains why they are which explains
that's a
why
problem for my wallet.
I know, dude. Ryan's gonna be broke as a joke for fucking Chaos Dwarves, man. Now here's the thing: if we extrapolate that out, we're already extrapolating because we're talking about rumors, right? And I'm going like 90% Valrak mode right now. If we extrapolate out from there, using the same logic for how do people call Chaos Dwarves? They shorten it down to Chorves or something. All right, same logic as Chorves.
That's you can't say that.
What, Chorves? What's wrong with Chorves? I love Chorves. Anyway, we can do the same. Yeah, Chorves hard confirmed by Mighty Dicey Matt on Slam Center. We can postulate, maybe even triangulate that there may be some dark elves coming to Age of Sigmar, which would be fascinating,
Yeah.
right? Because
I mean,
that would line up.
there is I can't remember his name in Age of Sigmar, but Malekith is like exists in Age of Sigmar in some weird shadow god form in the Shadow Realm. Uh, the question is like at the moment they're still selling all the Dark Elf and the old dwarf stuff under Seas of Sigmar. They're all
Yeah.
they're all temporarily sold out at the moment.
Oh, dude.
Probably because old
Maybe
world's
that's a
coming.
sign.
Dude,
Yeah.
I've got some opinions on that shit too. So there's some armies that are eating good. If you want to get in the old world and you want to buy cheap but still stick with official Games Workshop, you play Beastmen, you play Dwarves, you play. I think there's some High Elf units that are still in cities that carry in Goblins. Goblins and Orcs or ONG or whatever people call them. A lot of those lines are still used in AOS because they haven't like AOSified them. They haven't like turned them into like trapeze swinging like crazy nonsense instead of just like there's a certain joy of a dude like holding one shield, holding one fucking spear, and he's just standing there squat like a giant pillar.
Yeah.
There's a certain joy in that, and I love it.
That's what I'm worried about with them like redoing some of the factions in Age of Sigmar and saying like, oh, you could use these is like a lot of the Age of Sigmar models are cool. Some of them would work in the old world. Some of them would just look weird, in my opinion.
That's part of what's wrong with the not necessarily wrong, but that's one of the complaints with the Tomb King's box. Look at those horses next to that centerpiece model and be like, what? The decades that these things were crafted beside each other is
I saw
like massive.
Eons of Battle did a video like talking about like the old world stuff. He was like, the Tomb King's horses look exactly like the Lego horses, like the Lego skeleton horses. And he like pulled up a Lego skeleton horse and was like, yep, that looks exactly the same. But I mean, that's kind of like another thing, right? So like outside of the legacy factions, one of the things that has been getting a lot of talk is the fact that they're releasing a lot of old models. Not only just like old sculpts and stuff, because that is what it is. Like that was always going to happen, no matter how they did the launch. Some of them are pretty ugly, but that is the game. But lots of them are still being released in resin and metal, which a lot of people are not super happy about. So
yeah,
I don't think I love that. Like, I don't love working with Forge World resin. I don't love working with metal models. But I mean, maybe that's just a me issue.
For me, there's a certain nostalgia to it, but I recognize that it's a pain. Especially like the pewter.
I think it comes to the territory.
Yeah. I've got years of experience making pewter do what I need it to do, so get yourself a jeweler's saw.
Yeah.
Maybe a spare blade or two, because some of that pewter will eat them.
Oh yeah, I've got a pack
crazy.
I've got a pack of 200 blades of different sizes, and I got my old jeweler's saw and like my files.
Yeah.
You just have like a little tiny Drukhari torture kit, don't you?
Yeah.
So you got it all. That's amazing.
I guess like the biggest issue with it though, right, is one, cost. They're still like charging a premium for what is like inarguably an inferior product. And
they're charging like made to order prices, essentially.
Yeah, they're charging like ridiculous prices, which
It's
another
like
thing. That's another thing we'll get into is the sticker shock of this game.
Yeah,
but
that's real.
Like they're charging a premium for like metal and resin models that are clearly worse than the plastic models. And also, oh my god, I forgot what I was about to say. I was about to say something else. I had a great point, and then I forgot it.
No, hey, that's
yeah.
It'll come back around. Part of what ameliorates that and mitigates the sticker shock for me for this game is I got a feeling that this game isn't going to draw like a hyper competitive crowd. It's going to draw like Horus Heresy style people. And the Horus Heresy style people, like, as long as your spirit of what you're trying to do is in the miniature, they don't care if a goblin is Games Workshop plastic or like another company plastic. So
Yeah.
it's
So
hella proxyable.
That's what's gonna be like the saving grace to me.
Recasters.
Is that
too.
you get third-party miniatures, and B, 3D printed go burr. Like,
dude. Oh yeah.
That's what's going to like keep this game alive, I think. I don't really know exactly how to express it in words, but to me, that's just like harder to do with Horus Heresy. I guess it's Warhammer is so old at this point that a lot of the things that it did back in the day have just become generic fantasy tropes. And so it's a lot easier to get those from a third party and put them on the table without them looking completely out of place.
Absolutely.
I think trying to do that with Horus Heresy is much more difficult.
Yeah, there's been companies that have formed explicitly to like make competitive miniatures to Games Workshop for like Warhammer.
Yeah.
I would say that their quality's not as good, or at least it wasn't as good back in when they started. But maybe nowadays it's better than the old Warhammer miniatures were back then that are getting reprinted. So
something that all right. So like the cost of a box of 20 skeletons, like the veteran skeletons that are like, you know, sand aged or whatever, is kind of crazy, and apparently it lines up with what they were charging through inflation. Like if you go back and look at what they costed in 1994 versus now, it lines up. However, I think this would be his excuse. The box itself, though, like the Bretonia box and a little bit less the Tomb King's box, getting 5/8 of a 2,000 point army. Each box shakes out to $12.50 apparently, and the core book, the massive ass core book, ready to go for the price tags that they are is a pretty big deal. Like those boxes are hella value. Yeah. It's the dudes on the shelf. Like if you just want to pick up a unit of the elite, like I don't know what
Tomb Guard,
the hell they're called. Yeah, so Tomb Guard, there's one where it's these dudes like standing up like Sphinx style, and they've got like a blade in their hands, and you get 3 of them.
Ushabti.
Yeah, the Ushabti. Those $80, and I think they're either resin or metal, and you get 3 of them in the box. Yeah, that is painful.
Yeah.
The starter box is good. That shit is like, dude.
And those are old sculpts, right?
Yeah. They're not new.
Let's see how those compare to like a Croxagore box.
But I mean, honestly, like with these starter boxes, so if I remember correctly, the Bretonia one is $250, the Tomb King's one is $290. Yeah. I would gladly take either like less miniatures or take the books out of it to pay less for that box. But I guess then it's a little weird because the books are their own issue. Say you already own an army, right? Say you already own a Tomb King's army or a Bretonia army, and you just want the books. You're still spending like $150 just on books.
I think so. What I ordered to admit that this does come with discount. I want to say I'm paying $110 from a store near us is called Level Up Games, and I think I did the pre-order. And I think the core and the Forces of Fantasy box, because I'm going hard on Empire, I think that shakes out to $110, and they have a pretty modest discount. I want to say it's like 10%. That is tough. However, man, the PDFs are also going burr.
Yeah. So the core
I don't know if we're supposed to say that, but
the core rule book is $70.
Okay.
The Arcane journals are $27, and then the Forces of Fantasy or the Ravening Hordes, I don't know what those books are called.
Yeah, I think those are it.
Yeah. That's the titles, but I don't know what those that type of book is called.
It's like an index, basically.
Yeah.
Yeah, it's an index.
Those are $50 each. So like altogether, if you need all 3 to play the game correctly, unless you're playing an army that's not released yet. Are $147.
Wahapedia.
That is a lot of paper, and that's a lot of money to spend on paper. I'm a sucker for that kind of thing. I'm also I mean, I'm just gonna eat it at this one. Like I'm gonna pay Games Workshop and be happy about it. But I'm also gonna download them MF and backups of them books. I tell you what,
Yeah.
it is a tough pill to swallow. I think the initial wave here is going to be people that have the scratch to do so. People that really, really, really like what they're doing with the rank and flank game, and the people that already own the armies. Because if you already own the army and you haven't been able to play that army in 15 years, realistically, and all of a sudden you're like, wait a minute, my dwarves are like in vogue again, and I get a new edition of this game, and I only got to buy the book and the index. I mean, you know,
Yeah.
I do worse when they when they drop a new edition of 40K. So,
Yeah.
and I'll probably do worse in like a year, 2.5 years. I'll be buying 11th edition shit. Like it's like it's going out of style. So, you know,
Like they've got to make money off of it. If they if they dropped all the indexes for free online and the core rules for free online, there's a lot of people they wouldn't make a dime off of. And if you want the old world to actually come back, I hate to say it, you got to spend some money at GW, or else it's not going to come back.
Yeah.
You know,
this kind of thing goes back to I think GW has worked themselves into a rock and a hard place because like people play the game because of the models, but they charge for the books like it's D&D. You know what I mean? And no other war game company is really doing that usually. It's the rules are free because they're trying to get people to come over. And so you're paying it. Your wallet's getting it both ways, right? Your wallet's getting it for the tons of models, whereas with D&D you just got to buy like one or two, or dude, half the time like someone will give you a model, right? Or you can just play with a Monopoly piece if you want. And you buy the books, like you buy like Tazadu's Flaming Book of Repugnance or whatever the hell it's called, right? And then I don't know. I don't do the D&D.
Sean, we're making Tazadu's Flaming Book of Repugnance, releasing it in Creative Commons.
Whatever the hell it's called. But like they come out in waves, and you know.
I will say, people don't just play the Warhammer games for just the models. They play them for the lore. There's a lot of people that really love a lot of the Warhammer artwork. They've had some really talented artists in like their army books, and in like the rule books. They have a lot of like lore dump and artwork in them. Like they put effort into them. They're not just like, if they're just like white pages with rules and they're still charging the same, it'd be like, yeah, PDF go burr. But they try to. I feel like they. I guess I'm playing devil's advocate here. I feel like they try to put value into their books to make it so that it's not just a rule book. It's something that you like to go back and look at. Like I still go back and flip through my 3rd edition Warhammer 40,000 book because there's just some rad artwork in there, and there's just cool things to look at.
For sure.
But I don't know.
Yeah, but I mean, you also have to remember too that basically half the armies in the game aren't getting that treatment this edition, right? So like,
I mean, we don't know exactly what the Ravening
new
Forces book is going to be like.
Yes. I mean, we kind of do because there's definitely shout out to Guerrilla Miniature Games.
Dude, my boy flipping through every page slowly, being like, "I'm not going to read you the rules." He proceeds to read us the rules in 1080p. Oh my god!
But I don't know. It's I get where some people are coming from, but it's like I said, at the end of the day, do you want Old World Warhammer to come back officially or not?
Yeah,
because if you expected it to, if you expected it to come back with a 100% all miniatures refresh, all armies full supported from the beginning, you're living in the clouds. If you expected them to drop all the rules online for free, that's a fantasy also.
A Warhammer.
If you want to play
fantasy.
Warhammer Old World without dropping a dime to GW, wait, what'd you say?
A Warhammer fantasy.
Yeah,
Of
Warhammer Fantasy.
battles.
Yeah, if you wanted to play Warhammer Old World Fantasy without dropping a dime to GW to make it worth their while to put the work in, the answer is pull out one of your old rule books and play. That's always been an option. And I know that some people will probably say I'm like a shill or whatever for saying stuff like that, but whatever.
Well,
that's
okay,
reality
so
of business.
I think that I don't know. It's almost like it's alienating new players, though, right? Because a lot of us, I never played Warhammer Fantasy Battles. I'm a fucking Zoomer,
True.
dude. I wasn't old enough to play that shit. So it's I don't have the old rule books to go back to and look at those and play with those if I wanted to. And also, if I want to buy miniatures for these armies that are kind of out, you only have 2 armies right now. You have Bretonnia and you have Tomb Kings. You can't, from GW, buy any other miniatures right now.
Yeah.
I don't.
So all the ones that you can buy from Age of Sigmar are legacy factions.
No, that's not true. So there's a ton of orc and goblin units and beastmen units, because beastmen is in like the paid index. It's not the free one. So beastmen, orcs, goblins, some dwarves, and a little bit of elves, a little bit of high elves.
Are there any?
There's not
those-
I guess cities, but like you can't buy those.
There's
right
not
now, right?
actually.
'Cause they're out
I
of
mean, they're
stock.
out of
There's
stock.
not really.
I mean,
The only old world Warhammer orcs that are still available to buy through Age of Sigmar are like Savage Boys, Savage orcs.
Yeah,
and
so
I don't even think those are actually those aren't
You
even
can
the
still
original
get
models. I don't
goblins,
think
right?
there's
Because Gloomspite gets her.
there's a shitload of goblins.
Yeah.
Yeah.
goblins.
all
I think
the
the night
little guys
goblins
with the
might
nets.
still be something you
Yeah.
can buy.
Yeah, you can get night
Mhm.
goblins. 'Cause
Maybe
that's all
one or
Gloomspite gets.
two. One or two of the orc clan kits maybe are old world.
I think the boars too, right? The boar rider
The
guys.
boar boys.
Some of the boar guys might be. I think those might be new models though. Yeah, Gloomspite gets if you want to make a night goblin army. You could get started on that.
Yeah, there's like some characters like you can still get Savage Boar Boys still exist. You can still get some of the old like old Warhammer characters like the Savage Big Boss. But like you're right, it is pretty much like all Savage Orcs.
Those Savage Orcs aren't actually old World Warhammer kits.
What do you mean?
They're Age of Sigmar era.
They're Age of Sigmar, yeah.
Some of these are
Oh.
old for sure. The Savage Big Boss, that dude's on a square base.
Oh, Chaos Warriors too.
Savage Big Boss. Okay, yeah, the
Like,
Savage
like,
Big
there's a
Boss.
bunch of
yeah.
there's a bunch of the like Savage Orc stuff that's like still old.
S-
But
a
like
few of them,
again,
but,
but
like,
again, like you're still like very limited on the stuff that you can get. So
Yeah.
it's this game is still not new player friendly to any degree.
yeah,
I think.
from that standpoint, as someone who doesn't have anything to lean back on, yeah, if you want to play like, dark elves or honestly high elves, because all the high elf stuff, from what I can see, is gone from the store for Seas of Sigmar, and I'm sorry, Lumineth Realm Lords are not high elves. You could run them, but if you want to actually be high elves, those models don't work because a lot of those models are just a very different style.
I mean, a little bit of head swap goes a long way.
No.
About 80% of the way.
No, they don't look like high elves. They're elves that are wearing white and blue, but they're stylistic choices. Like the high elves have a very distinct and recognizable style in Warhammer Old World, and Lumineth Realm Lords are not it. So yeah,
Hey, 3D
if you're a
printer
new
clears
player
that
and you
right
want
up,
to play
don't it?
like, well, yeah, but that's also a huge investment. Jordan makes a good point that as a new player who's like, hey, I want to play Old World, and I like these guys. I played them in Total War Warhammer. It'd be cool to have an army of that on the table. That is a bad spot to be in.
Yeah. So like old
Except
world,
for Bretonian or Tomb Kings. I think if you were interested
Well,
in
yeah.
either of those from the game, you're good to go. And I think they're going to come out with more
Yeah.
boxes from what they're saying.
and,
So,
and like it's
they'll get
fair. I think it's fair to say that like Bretonnia is probably the most popular army in the game, right? Um,
Um,
Ooh, it's
I
probably
don't
likely.
I
A
don't
lot
know
of
about that. They're a popular one to be
I'll,
sure. I don't know if they're the most popular.
uh,
Back when I
all right,
played, I
so
so
saw
what would you think is the
more
most popular?
Empire. I saw more Empire players than anything else back when I played.
Okay, yeah, I guess that's fair.
Now, that's anecdotal for my area, but
Yeah.
back when I played, we were going to the GW store. My roommate was like one of the only Bretonian players that we ever saw.
Okay, sure.
Everybody
Yeah.
else was like,
Again, like I wasn't there, obviously. So like everything that I know about it is stuff that I've heard from other people. Um,
yeah.
so I had always heard that like Bretonia was incredibly popular, but you know, maybe I'm wrong.
They definitely were a popular army. Don't get me wrong.
Sure.
Whether or not they're the most popular,
Sure.
I
I
don't
guess
know.
one of the most.
yeah,
Yeah, I
Um,
I mean,
mean,
I
I
think
think,
Bretonia is a good choice, and a good foil choice is Tomb Kings, because Tomb Kings was one of those armies that people wanted them to flesh out more in fantasy battles, and they
mhm,
never did as much as people wanted. And so
yeah.
this is like them basically throwing those old beardy grognards a bone,
Yeah.
yeah.
like
So
so.
I have to imagine the armies that got selected for this were the most popular armies, and they figured out a narrative to
that
make it
fits
make
that.
sense for
Yeah.
those to be the focus of a storyline.
Yeah.
Like you were asking the other day, like why Tomb Kings because they're so far away. It's
Well,
because they're probably one of the more popular armies.
it's I know from like a real life standpoint why they were picked, right? But the lore
Yeah,
explanation for it was weird to me. Um, but again, like I don't know enough of the lore. I need to do a little bit more research on
yeah.
the lore, to, like have a
The
real solid
Well,
opinion on that. But
Bretonia has like colonies down through that like Badlands down to the
yeah,
south.
right. We talked about it.
Yeah, like
Yeah,
little settlements and
Yeah.
stuff. And then the arcane tomes actually have you play through scenarios where that's going down. Like, I want to say there's special missions in those as well, on top of like variant, like skew ways to build both armies. And the lore behind those is actually cool. One of the skew ways to build Bretonians is Bretonian exiles, right? So you have been punished from the main Bretonia force, and you're out there because you're daring to use stuff like bombards, right?
Yeah.
It's crazy. So they have units that are exclusive to them that you can't use in the main Bretonia index.
Yeah.
Anyway,
hmm.
But
the missions and stuff kind of
yeah.
map out that lore and flesh it
Yeah.
out. So
But like the point I was getting at, I guess, is they picked two like incredibly popular factions to kind of be the lead of the launch, right? But if you don't play those two factions and you're a new player, you're kind of fucked. I remember we were talking about doing old world stuff, and I was like, hell yeah, lizard men are getting new stuff. I'm gonna play the new lizard men. And then the article came out not like a couple months later, I guess, after all the new Lizardmen stuff came out, and they're like, and they're a legacy faction. It's like, that kind of takes the wind out of my sails, right? Like,
Yeah,
yeah, yeah.
as
I
much
want to
as
do a lot with
it's
demons and
kind of like a non-issue, I guess, because legacy factions, GW's not officially supporting them. Other third-party TOs are probably gonna allow them. If I had to guess, GW is probably gonna reverse their decision about allowing them tournaments. That's just kind of my thought. But it's still, as a new player, saying, I want to play Lizardmen, or I want to play Skaven, or I want to play Chaos Dwarfs, or whatever. Like, actually, you don't get the full treatment this edition. Kind of sucks.
yeah.
yeah.
And then, like, the
Yeah,
sticker
that makes
shock of
sense.
getting into it for... So, I guess there's two options, right, as a new player. You either suck up the sticker shock, and you just buy the shit from GW, and it's gonna be probably like $600 or $700, right? If you want to build a full 2,000 point army.
If you're not going with one of the
Maybe
starters,
more
yeah.
than that, right?
Maybe.
I mean that's even with one of the starters, because I mean it's still $300 plus like $200 to fill out the rest of your roster. It's
Yeah,
still
I mean,
probably gonna be $600 or $700. So like
I'd
that's
say you probably save a few hundred going with Tomb Kings or Bretonians, but
Yeah.
it's still like no small amount, right?
So that's option one. You play Tomb Kings or Bretonia, and then you just suck it up. Or 2, you have to spend a bunch of time either scouring 3D printing websites for STLs or looking for third-party miniatures that you like, and they're likely all not going to be from the same place, right? And so now you're having to deal with a whole bunch of extra hassle on that front. It's just not a very beginner-friendly, like, new player-friendly game. And maybe they're okay with that. Maybe that's, like, strategic, and they don't really give a shit about new players, and they're just trying to, you know, nostalgia bait the grognards, but...
I think even they would agree that this is a game that prioritizes veterans first, like veterans of old editions first, and they're putting stuff out for new people to onboard. They just couldn't do it like 40K style, where I can buy a combat patrol in literally every single army that's in 40K right now and have rules to run it small scale and like, you know, bingo boxes that I can expand out into that allow me to catch deals all over the place, like every Christmas and stuff like that. It's one of those things that like this is expert mode tabletop wargaming.
Yeah.
It is this ain't your daddy's first
I mean,
army.
it's not. I don't even know that I would
Well,
say
actually,
expert mode. It's like
It might be.
it's like bust
Sorry,
out
go
your
ahead, Jeff.
wallet mode, right?
Yeah.
Yeah, it ain't cheap.
I don't. There's so much of this to me that just feels like it shouldn't be acceptable, considering Games Workshop is not only posting like record profits for like the last few years, but also they announced this in like 2018, right? So it's been like 6 years since this was announced. They had to have been working on it before that for at least like a year, right?
I mean, they also had to spin up the print for all the stuff, all the old shit that they're printing, right? And they sold it all out.
I don't think the scope of the launch is due to laxity. I think it's strategy. You know, I think they don't I don't think they want to like invest in a full whole hog relaunch because they are probably uncertain whether it's going to be flash in the pan.
Sure,
You know?
and that's why legacy factions exist. But for the factions that you're not calling legacy factions, to like not have those miniatures just ready for people to buy on launch, to me is a huge mistake.
Yeah, I mean,
they're also they're having supply issues like in every game.
They're
right
having
now.
huge stock issues, and I don't know if they just like underestimated the demand for this game or what. But I mean, I've been reading stories about like LGSs are getting calls from Games Workshop, and being like, "Yeah, actually, we can only send you like one of each box."
They were doing that with Into the Dark too. I remember that shit.
Yeah,
I can't remember who I was listening to, but someone was talking about how like GW's like grown, like their market has grown substantially in the past couple of years, but their infrastructure hasn't, and it's really taxing their ability to produce. And I want to say someone mentioned that they're setting up a new facility. Maybe
I think they just opened or are like soon opening a new factory. So hopefully that helps.
Yeah, I mean that situation in itself could explain why they're taking like a very careful approach to like something like this, because like expanding your production and your manufacturing is a huge
it's a risk
expense.
This is like a massive risk,
and it's a risk. Yeah, it's a massive risk and it's a huge expense, and so they're trying to mitigate their risk across the board, probably. But
I get it.
Yeah, so you've got risks of cannibalizing people from AOS into fantasy battles, which
so that's just going to happen. Like, unfortunately, you have two games that are filling the same niche, one of which is much more beloved than the other, right? So you're going to have, if I had to guess, like a pretty big exodus of Age of Sigmar players over to Old World.
I don't know, man.
I think Age of Sigmar is still going to have a pretty big relative to Old World, right? I think AOS is still gonna have a decently sized audience because there's a lot of people that are just diehard AOS fans, which fuck
Mhm.
yeah, love that for you.
Hell yeah.
But there's a lot
Shout
of
out to anyone.
people. I guess to be fair, I hear it more from 40k players than I ever did from Age of Sigmar players. Um, like just fawning over old Warhammer Fantasy Battle stuff. Um, so
I think the people who are real diehard old world fans
wouldn't touch
probably
Age of
didn't go
Sigmar.
into Age of
Yeah,
Sigmar out of
yeah.
spite, you know.
But I think there's still like a pretty large contingent of Age of Sigmar players that's gonna be like, cool, my real fantasy, my grown up adult fantasy game is back. I'm gonna go play that. I think that's gonna happen no matter
Yeah.
what. Like, you just
Yeah.
I mean,
yeah.
I'm very curious about the
if it
turnover.
pops off, then we'll probably see a lot more support for the game.
Yeah.
Yeah. They
Which is what I'm
came
hoping.
out they came out with this game in a a cautiously optimistic way that even if it completely flopped, what ends up happening is every army has rules, including the legacy ones, and you can play with models that are probably going to be in AOS anyway, right? And it's one of the most proxyable games out there. Like literally one of the best units in like 8th edition was a bunch of dudes in armor on horseback. Like that's just knights, man. Everyone's selling knights, right? So it's like a guy with bows. Like okay, bow spam. You can buy miniatures doing that all day. So even if this game like loses all Games Workshop support, it is playable and like a fully. They released it with a fully finished but expandable ecosystem, right? So they didn't leave those armies hanging and hanging on the sidelines. You can still play demons. I'm still very curious to see if those legends indexes are actually as robust as the paid indexes, but fingers crossed. I want to believe. And Sean, I wouldn't call myself a shill. I'd call myself a pay pig.
A pay pig.
Wait, did Sean call you a shill?
Sean called me a shill earlier, and I didn't have a good time to shoehorn in how rude, Sean. They ain't giving me shit. I'm a pay pig.
I see some people in chat saying that they think AOS will still be a superior game over Old
That's
World.
entirely
I mean,
subjective. Like,
yeah, it's
I don't
entirely
know.
subjective. Because like for me, I love the like ranking and block units. It's more kind of gritty, realistic. Like that's how people fought, you know,
I
in
mean, it's
medieval
just like
times.
at the end of the day, it's like, do you like high fantasy or do you like low fantasy? Because that's your
Yeah.
that's your two options here.
Like Age of Sigmar is fun. Don't get me wrong. I've played a little bit of it, and I love some of the models, but it's very arcadey compared to like Old World, from my point of
Oh,
view.
I've heard people describe it as instead of grim dark, it's noble bright. So it's a little too
Yeah.
noble bright.
I don't know if it's
Whereas
necessarily a full on
I don't
noble
know
bright
if I
setting
love
because
that.
first for
it's still
AOS
got
one was noble bright. They had to grim some boys
yeah.
up. They were like, no, trust us.
It definitely leans more towards that.
I guess I have
Yeah.
also like pretty limited AOS experience. I played exactly one game of Age of Sigmar. I do have
Yeah.
a whole army, although I don't know.
Hey.
I might not anymore. I don't know how points and shit have changed, but at one point I had a full Age of Sigmar army.
I bet you got 1,000 because you
I definitely
got
have 1,000.
the stink pokers. Or
I don't know.
whatever
I don't know if
they
I still have 2,000. Yeah, the cruel boys, the stink pokers.
call it. Cool
yeah.
boys. There we go.
Stink pokers.
Yeah.
Swamp stabbers.
Stink
or
pokers
whatever.
are going to be a faction
Swamp
that's
stabbers.
described in the D&D book that Sean and I are going to work on.
Yeah,
Um,
yeah.
Yeah, like Old World is just a very I would say it's a different kind of game than Age of Sigmar, just because of how you have to deal with like wheeling units, the way leadership works.
Yeah.
It's just a
Rank and
different
flank
game.
is a unique
Yeah.
thing that's going to take some learning. It's gonna be cool, like trays, movement trays,
And
factoring all
I
that
get
stuff
why
in.
it's not everybody's cup of tea. I've always understood why Warhammer Old World is not everyone's cup of tea. Like some people back in the day, like when I was playing 40k and Warhammer, some of the like real grognard Warhammer players like shat on 40k, saying like it had no rules and it was like a child's game, and I was like, you know, it's just a different
Yeah.
game. It's a different style,
Yeah.
different strategies. It's fine,
Like, yeah.
but Yeah,
I
I've never been one of those guys.
I
I
will
understand
play-
why
Yeah.
it's different.
I'll play Old World. I I think so. Despite all, it seems like I've been talking shit the whole time. But despite all that, I am like pretty excited for it. I'll play it. I'm gonna have to figure out where I'm gonna get my third party army, but 'cause
War Games Atlantic, baby. A buck
I'm
of bone.
sorry, I'm not paying fucking GW prices for that, dude.
Don't.
It's nuts.
Yeah, I was
Skeleton.
looking at some of the prices in the Ushtabi or whatever they're called. Like 3
Yeah.
Ushtabis, like $80. Three of
love
the
their
new
paint.
Croc
They're
scores.
80?
Yeah, three of them
Yeah,
are
3 of the new
$80.
Croc
Holy
scores.
fuck,
80
dude.
metal, 3 of them. It's bad.
3 of the new Croc scores is $60. So you're paying a $20 upcharge on a model from a long time ago.
Yeah.
Like,
that's
all right. So my assumption would be they're $80 because they are now, because GW is set up for more modern production with plastic and stuff. It's actually now gone back around to metal being more expensive for them to produce.
Oh yeah, you're paying for the opportunity cost of them
But at
printing.
that point,
Yeah, they're not
why not
buying
just
bulk
like convert
materials.
them to fucking plastic at that point?
They might.
'Cause, like,
I kind of doubt it.
Injection molding has a very high upfront cost.
Right. Sure.
And like all those plastic kits are injection molded, and you get your money back in spades if you do a long enough production. And I just don't think they're convinced necessarily it's going to be a long enough production, which is why they're cracking out the old casts and stuff.
I guess.
The Ushtabi might be bigger than a Croc score. Also, they might be bigger models. I don't really have a good sense of what they are.
So.
On the
I think
I wanna
they're
say
like
they're on-
the same size.
They might be on 50 by 75, which is I want to say dimensionally close to like 60 millimeters if you're doing like a straight conversion from 40 to circle to square. In Games Workshop math, not in real math. I'm not a big enough science nerd to be able to tell you about area. So actually, Alpha Omega made me double think into something that I think is a good point. Age of Sigmar is in a good spot. I agree, Haunted Bagel. Age of Sigmar is also a very mature game at this point. So really, as long as they roll out those like balance updates for competitive stuff and like any codexes or tomes or whatever that are still lingering, get those going. It's going to be doing pretty good. But the long tail of dwindling sales for third edition is starting to approach. So now's the perfect time to not cannibalize as much as possible with Old World. Now, they're going to lose some people, but if 4th edition Age of Sigmar is as shiny as everyone hopes it is, then they're going to yank them right back. And as long as the wallet can handle the turgor pressure, I think they'll be fine, right?
Yeah.
So it's basically like the perfect window. And I think one of the reasons why G-Dub had to wait this long is because they wanted to drop this in that perfect window, right? So it's...
Sure.
It's all very calculated, and I think the longer I look at how these things have lined up, the more calculated it feels. But at the same time, I don't want to turn into a conspiracy theorist of like trust the G-Dub. They make mistakes like everyone else, right?
I don't think it's a conspiracy. They're a business.
Yeah.
You know.
Right. Yeah.
Like at the end of the day, Games Workshop is a business. They have to make money. I get that. Everyone should get that. I don't think everyone does get that.
And I want to be clear. I've been saying that a lot. It doesn't give them a carte blanche to just do anything to like squeeze profits. You know.
Yeah.
I think there's like good business and there's bad business. They're just trying to do safe business with Old World. Is kind of like my take.
Old World is very much like a calculated risk for them.
Yeah.
Like they know that Old World either is A, going to fucking blow up, or B, it's going to fall flat on its face. I don't think there's really going to be an in-between, right? I think it's going to go one way or the other. I think it's going to either eat Age of Sigmar for fucking breakfast, or it's just going to fall flat on its face after the first year.
I think they're both going to be able to coexist.
I
think they're both going to be able to coexist.
I do.
It'll balance out. In the
I do
end,
too.
it'll balance out, but there's going to be some yoinking going on both ways, I think. You know?
I do too.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And if you
Or-
really want to game the system, play demons. Then you can play that army in all 3 games. You're
Oh, dude,
just
you can
like,
Horus Heresy.
You can play
Yeah,
the
you
Horus
can play
Heresy also.
4 games.
yeah, all
Kill
4
team.
games.
5 games. Warcry,
5
6 games.
Underworld,
Oh,
7
dude.
games.
Let's see.
No,
I don't know
Sorry,
anything about
calculate
Underworld.
Overworld.
I don't know anything about Underworld.
No, Underworld. Yeah.
Underworld.
I don't know anything about it.
Are there,
Bowl,
are there
7
demons in
games.
Necromunda? What? There's no
I mean,
demons
it's
in Blood
40K.
Bowl. Is there? Are demons in Blood Bowl?
I don't-
Nurgle
know if there's a
corrupted.
demon team.
There's
Actually,
the Nurgle. There's the like Blight Kings, right? Yeah.
They straight up don't look like humans. Like there's one like Forge World
No.
Slugman where you're like, that
Oh, I know.
motherfucker's a demon.
I almost bought him to proxy shit for my Gene Stealer cults. Yeah.
Hell yeah, dude.
Yeah,
Yeah.
I don't. I think in Blood Bowl there's not really like a
There's
demon
no
team.
straight,
There's
like,
like a
demons,
Nurgle
yeah.
team, a Corn team, and they have like humans and demons and all in between.
Yeah.
They're all over the place.
But
yeah.
anyway,
But-
that's outside of the point.
Yeah, I definitely get, like, I was definitely looking at this through like old beardy Git glasses, you know, thinking about it. I definitely can. I understand now, like as a completely new player, it being kind of a bummer how it's being rolled out.
Yeah.
But
I think like a lot of people are talking a lot of shit, and a lot of people are super fucking hyped for this game. And I think like
Yeah.
kind of the reality just is right there in the middle, right? Like it's a very safe launch for this game.
mhm.
Absolutely.
Um,
I think they did as much as they could. They stuck out their neck exactly as far as they can stick it out without like just totally ruining some risks. But so they're gonna give us more if we take what's on the table. So I'm gonna make sure I hey, PDFs go burr, but I'm also gonna buy the book. I promise. Send us review copies of stuff at some point. That'd be really cool.
You lagged out there for a second, but
Uh-oh.
we got you.
Did you hear the audio at least?
Yeah, we picked it up.
a little bit, yeah.
Alright.
We got the gist of it.
All right.
I think too, the biggest thing that I think people seem to be either forgetting or just not realizing is that this old world is coming from the Specialist Games studio. It's not coming from like mainline GW.
Right.
If I remember correctly, like the rule books and everything were written by the team that writes the Lord of the Rings rule books.
Which is dope because
Yeah.
apparently that was an awesome rule set.
Yeah. And so, with that in mind, you have to remember that this particular section of Games Workshop does not get the same resources that Age of Sigmar and 40K get.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And so, all of the things that I have been kind of having issues with, old models with bad materials, legacy factions kind of feeling bad, stock issues, all the sticker shock shit. I think a lot of that, to me, is kind of mitigated by the fact that I know that this is from that specific section of Games Workshop, and it was never really meant to blow up to something the size of 40K, and so they weren't expecting the kind of response that they got. So,
Yeah.
Yeah.
I
mean, yeah, like I know that when Total War Warhammer came out, they didn't really expect it to take off like it did either.
Yeah.
Which I think probably one of the only reasons we're getting Old World is because Total War Warhammer
absolutely.
did so well.
Yeah.
Uh,
I
yeah.
absolutely agree.
Ooh. Are Tomb Kings really popular? And have Total War been like these are the most played factions? Like are Tomb Kings popping off in
I don't know.
Total War?
I don't know.
I don't know if I've ever seen like anything that they put out about that. I guess.
Yeah, I don't know if they've done like a tier of like who plays what. I don't even know if they have that data.
I don't know. We can check Reddit. What's your favorite
Hell yeah.
faction
But,
and why? Lizardmen, Men, Empire, Dwarfs, Tomb Kings, Lizardmen, Skaven. All right, so it's all the legacy armies is the ones that.
Well, Tomb
Dark
Kings is in
Elves.
there. They're not legacy.
Yeah,
Dwarves aren't
I
legacy.
know.
playing Legacy Army versus Legacy Army is probably going to feel very balanced. I'm really I'm sniffing hard hopium that they hold up to index armies as well. That like demons can stand toe to toe with Bretonians, and like the best player wins instead of like, this thing's a joke. It folds,
Yeah.
but technically it's got rules. It's like, nah, that's a greater demon. I want it to actually be tough. So I hope. I really do.
So
Yeah.
Now-
I'm willing to like get spanked a little bit with my Dark Elves because of what I used to do
Well, they're
back
into that
in
too.
Old World Warhammer. With my repeater crossbows and my city
Oh,
guard.
God.
To the
Yeah, you
point
got
where
some
my
net
friends
pay.
wouldn't. They were like, "We're not gonna play against your Dark Elves anymore." And I was like, "Oh, come on, man!" And so then I had to start a Chaos Army
Oh my
so that
God.
they would play with me.
That's so funny.
So, yeah,
um,
I have it coming if the index is weak, but
yeah.
I have a feeling they're not gonna be weak. They're just not gonna be like featureful and fluffy
Yeah.
as like the army books.
So
you know,
I think
like-
too, if you think ahead to the future, if this edition of Old World does well, then if I had to guess, if I had to put money on it, all of these factions that are now legacy factions will just be parts of the second edition of this game.
Oh,
right?
for sure.
So like there won't be legacy factions anymore going into the second edition. If I had to guess. I could be wrong. But
Is there an equivalent number of legacy and non-legacy?
I don't
No,
think
I
so.
think
I
it's
think
like
I think there's
550?
slightly more non-legacy.
Oh, really? Shit, I thought it was slightly
There's
more.
Yeah.
there's
That's what I
seven
thought.
seven legacy factions.
Okay.
I think there's 8 or 9 non-legacy factions. I don't remember the exact numbers off the top of my head.
I want to say it's 9 because I remember they don't line up exactly 5 and 5 or 4 and 4. I want to say there's like 5.
Oh, because
good
there's
guys.
five good guy, 4 bad guy. Because orcs and goblins are people are considering them kind of separate. So yeah,
Which is weird, but
it's nine non-legacy armies, 7 legacy armies.
Orcs and goblins were always like one army, I want to say.
Sure, yeah, but like
You
I
can
think I think that's how people are splitting them up, right? Because it's 5 good guys, 4 bad guys, and people are saying that orcs and goblins are like the 5th
Right.
bad guy.
I
To be
could see
clear,
them
they're
doing
the
something
same
where
army.
like after they get all the new armies that they said they're going to do full support without, if the game is like really successful, then they do like a release like in the next year of 2 more armies getting full support. And like, because they're kind
I
of
don't
doing
think
it
they do that in this edition, right? I don't think they're gonna go back
Well,
on
yeah, like-
what they said. But I think if they
Yeah,
launch
like
a new
next
edition,
edition.
then
Yeah.
So
But
to
we'll
a
see.
point that was made earlier about like people moving from Sigmar to Old World, I think that would happen with the same amount of people that moved from 40k to Horus Heresy. I'm sure Horus Heresy got some people,
no.
but I don't think
disagree.
very really.
I like pretty hard disagree with that, right? Because Old World has kind of a legacy to it that Horus Heresy doesn't.
Yeah.
I don't know, man. Horus Heresy has like
Horus Heresy
because
wasn't a game before.
well,
it was
it's a continuation
game,
of 7th edition, right? So people that got mad.
Yeah,
about,
but I mean,
No, it's not.
it's
It's 7th edition rules. It's not a
Yeah.
continuation of
Yeah.
7th edition.
as far as game mechanics go, it is a continuation of 7th
Sure,
edition.
but like it's completely different armies, right? Like it's not.
yeah.
It's not 7th.
It's not like there
40K.
was. It's not like there was a Horus Heresy back in 3rd edition 40k that people played, and then they
Yeah.
stopped making it. I think you'll get more people
This is
moving.
this is like Old World is the original Warhammer.
Yeah,
Like this was
It
the
was the first
Warhammer
one.
before fucking Warhammers,
Yeah.
right? Like
that's why Warhammer 40k is called Warhammer 40k.
yeah.
And why the Eldar are elves.
So
and-
I have to like
Yeah.
pretty hard disagree with that point.
I got a feeling that people that are as into Age of Sigmar, I don't think the transfer is going to be very gnarly. I think it's going to be closer to.
No, I don't
how-
either. I don't think there's going to be a ton of people just straight up quitting Age of Sigmar to play Old World. I think there's going to be
Yeah,
a
I
lot
don't
of
think
I think
that's
there's going
gonna
to be a lot of people that play both. I think there's going to be some people that leave Age of Sigmar to go play Old World exclusively. but I don't
Yeah.
think it's going to be like a massive number of people.
Right.
I
I'm saying
I
it's
have
a
to
good place.
imagine. I have to imagine the only people that are gonna like drop Age of Sigmar completely and go to Old World are like if there's anybody out there who's still playing Age of Sigmar with their square-based Old World army, just so they have a game to play with their miniatures, which was me for a little bit with my Dark Elves when I was getting absolutely creamed. But
Amen.
I was using like a double deep index list for that
Yeah,
battle, and
that
it
was
was
super
not balanced.
You think after
Oh,
they
Uh,
announced the legacy factions, more people started burning their Dark Elf armies?
yeah, maybe. I, I did joke that like that guy that burned his Dark Elf army heard they were bringing back Old World. He bought a new Dark Elf army, and then they found out they were indexed. He burns it again. But I have to
I want to
imagine he
interview
just
that
never
guy.
came back.
Yeah,
I
true.
want to talk
Who
to
is
that guy.
that guy? Let's get him on this show.
I seriously
When
like
when you reboot 5x5, make the first episode with that guy.
five
Yeah,
by
we
five
can
is
interview people here. Why can't we interview people here?
Oh yeah, or After Dark. I mean, it's gonna be more unhinged if you get interviewed on After Dark.
Yeah, it
Like,
should, as it should be.
wear some pads and bring a beer.
The guy that burned his Dark Elf army should get an unhinged interview.
I
I got a
just,
feeling that Form Trolls egged him on, and then he's burning that army, and like, the realization he's like, they're just people on the internet. It's like,
But he had to go with the bit.
I don't know.
man, maybe.
Yeah.
But yeah, so kind of wrapping things up, putting a bow on things. I am a little disappointed in the Old World launch as somebody who did not play the original Warhammer Fantasy game, because they didn't make it incredibly easy to get into as a new player. I will still probably play it. I would love to play it on the channel. I think that would be fun. But yeah, that's kind of where I'm at. I'm a little disappointed, but I'm overall pretty positive about it, I think.
If you had to give it a percentage grade, what would you give it?
Oh God, I don't know, like a 75, 80, something around there.
C
Hey.
plus,
C plus.
C's
No,
get degrees.
I give it a B. I'll give it a B. I'll give it an 80.
All right.
B minus,
Nice.
B minus.
Yeah, B minus.
All right.
Hey,
What about
Let's
you,
hope
Ryan?
scholarship.
What's
Yeah.
your grade?
I
As a
mean, maybe I'm an
grognard.
optimist. Maybe I'm just an optimistic grognard shill, but I'm just glad that it's back.
Hell yeah.
I stuff being an index doesn't bother me that much unless they're just wildly outclassed by the books, which I don't think that's going to happen.
What if
Like
they
the
wildly
indexed armies in
outclass the books?
40K. Say what?
What if they wildly outclass the books?
ooh.
Well, then look out because the repeater crossbows go burr. But yeah, I'm excited it's back. I think it'll be fun to play. It's a different kind of strategy with like the ranked units that I've missed. And yeah, I wish it had like a little bit more support than it does, but I'm just glad it's coming back.
So what's your letter grade?
Give it
Or what's your
give it time
percentage?
and my percentage.
hmm
In terms of like how happy it makes me,
Sure.
Overall,
A minus.
A minus. All right. So like a 90 to 95, somewhere in that range.
Yeah, sure.
All right. Matt.
damn. Dude, I'm all in on this shit. Like, I am super hyped. I'm gonna be able to experience some stuff that I looked at. Because like when I started, it was like when I had my false start, like there was a split in the path. There's like that meme, right, where like it's Fantasyland in one and Grimdark in the other, and I chose the 40k Grimdark. But I always wonder about the Fantasyland, the goblin green square bases that I saw in the distance there. So I'm gonna be able to take that choice, and I think they did as good as they could. I don't think they were gonna 100% this without like just risking it all. And to be honest with you, I still think there's a chance that this ain't gonna last. But even if it doesn't, the game is set up to be semi-eternal. Like, you can just play this game even if they don't come out with anything else because of how they're doing the indexes and everything. Anyway, I'm going to give it an A- as well, with going up to an A+ if they continue to support this for at least one more edition. So,
All right.
like, this is good shit. But also, boy, my printer is going to be working overtime.
Yeah. And even though I've already got some old world Warhammer armies, I am going to start an entirely new army just to support the relaunch.
Ooh, which one are you
All
starting?
right. What? Yeah. What army are you starting? I think we should
So
talk
it's
about
probably going to be Wood Elves.
What else?
Since
yeah.
they're getting new models, and I imagine they're getting a new Forest Dragon, and I imagine that new Forest Dragon is going to look fucking amazing because like all the new dragons they've come out with are just tits. Yeah. And also just to cure the wound that has been in my heart for years for that one Christmas in middle school where I thought I was getting Wood Elves, but my brother betrayed me with the Christmas tips and got me Tyranids instead, which I liked my Tyranids, but walking down to the fireplace and thinking I was looking at a Wood Elf dragon, and I got closer and it changed into a Hive Tyrant was one of the biggest disappointments of my life. So I gotta patch up that, and maybe then I'll be a whole person again. Finally, it'll fix me.
I think I'm gonna start an Orc and Goblin tribes army.
Nice.
I've been building
tempting.
building and painting all these orcs for 40k, and it's like, all right, I gotta move it all over to fantasy now too.
Dude, hell yeah. That's
and I do have the Cruel Boys for AOS, so I guess I got orcs there too, technically.
Square them up, man. Hell yeah. Or do you want to save them for AOS, or are you going to square base them up?
Well, they're Cruel Boys. You can't play them for Old World.
You could do some proxy. You could be like, this
you could use them, but there's no Cruel Boys in Old World.
Right, yeah, that's right. So I can't,
All right.
I'm going to start a new army. I'm going to do some 3D print, and I'm going to do some third-party purchase, and maybe some first-party purchase, and we'll see.
Orcs are definitely tempting. I had started building an orc army for Old World Warhammer, and I didn't get it on the table before they stopped making the game.
Yeah.
So I've got some old kit of fantasy orcs. Like my 40k orcs have like some shields, like round orc shields, and like some weird like fantasy hats and like ringmail, because I've been integrating the bits together because they're basically the same kit, just fantasy and sci-fi.
Yeah.
That is dope.
But I have a feeling Wood Elves are going to be where I land.
Nice.
There's so I was watching a video that's going over all the lores of Magic, because like there's like 8 or 9 different lores of Magic, and they're all in the core book. And so your index, if you got a wizard, is just like you take one of these 2 or 3 lores of Magic. The orcs have Wa Magic, and the spell names are friggin' hilarious. It's like the Fist of Mork (parentheses) or
Mork,
right?
Yeah.
It's
Gork
great.
I think they had it used to be like the Foot of Gork and or Mork.
Yeah, dude, it's awesome.
Yeah, that's how it was in the old games, if I remember correctly. There's like I think there's like 9 lores of Magic. They're like the core Magic, and then like there's a few special ones. Like Dark Elves have Dark Magic. Some Chaos people can use Dark Magic. And there's High Magic, then Wa Magic, and then Chaos, Winds of Chaos. Like each Chaos God, except for Khorne, obviously, has their sort of own magic lore to draw from.
But yeah, that's I think that kind of puts a little bit of a bow on the discussion about the old world.
Oh yeah.
So why don't we introduce our new segment? So every week for the After Dark, we're gonna start doing a weekly members Q&A.
Oh, here we go.
So it's a little bit of a test. So we only got one question this week.
I was gonna ask if we're gonna like score points for answering things, but
no. This isn't a quiz. Maybe
it's
we'll
not
do
a competition.
Maybe we'll do a game show next week. You guys want to do a game show next week?
I get down with that.
We probably need a little more lead time to prepare a game show.
Bullshit.
I don't know. I'm down for it.
You're underestimating me. You're underestimating me. Watch. All right. I'm gonna pull together a game show in a week.
Jordan, I bet you can't pull together a game show in a week.
I can pull together a fucking 40k army in a week. I can pull together a game show in a week. Get out of here.
I can already feel you. I can already feel you bending time to make it happen.
Yeah.
With your time magic.
We've already like established that I steal your time to use for myself.
Yeah.
There we go. Yeah.
That's why I can never understand how much time has passed.
Yeah.
The Ryan timekeeper.
Introducing the weekly members Q&A. Every week, I'm going to put out a post on our community tab on YouTube for the members to respond to, and they ask us questions. So just respond to this post with a question. I'll put one out after this stream, and we'll get to those next week. But for this week, we got one question from our very own Sean Sully, who asks, a witch has granted you the ability to shapeshift into an animal of your choice once a day. What animal do you choose?
It has to be a real animal?
No, it just says an animal.
Of your choice.
Of your choice, yeah. It doesn't say a real animal. Ryan, what's your animal?
Sean, are we going by like D&D creature classifications? Like, does it have to be a beast?
All right, well, while Ryan figures that out, Matt, what's your answer?
I would shift into, like, probably some sort of giant, like, prehistoric big, like, you know, like the Hastings eagle, the sucker that would, like, eat small.
No,
like,
I don't. But
dude, Hastings eagle used to exist. I think it was in Australia, and that sucker would snack on, like, adolescent people. Yeah, I want to say it's the Hastings eagle. And
Hast's eagle? Is that it?
it might be Hast's eagle. Yeah, it's a big old sucker. Yeah, it used to eat whole emus. Yeah, so I'd shapeshift into those because they got an awesome wingspan, and the talons are big enough that I can carry like a spare change of clothes with me when I land because I'm gonna be buck naked because I'm gonna Hulk out of all my clothes whenever I change or whatever. Well, I'm just thinking logically here, right?
Yeah. I mean, is it? Is it like a werewolf style transformation or like a magical one where like?
Man, I don't know.
So
this has
a lot of questions here.
You're getting too into the weeds on this.
I'm mowing the lawn, and I'm gonna say that it is a werewolf style transformation, Ryan. There has to be some kind of side, not necessarily.
There has to be a penalty.
Yeah, there has to be a consideration taken.
Yeah, like I would definitely transform into something that could fly. Dragon if it's on the table, because why the fuck not?
You'd be hunted, dog. I don't want the village killing my ass.
Dude. You just if you start getting hunted, you just turn back into a naked man.
No, you can't break the masquerade. You can't.
Why not? You fly behind a building, turn into a naked man. Why be like, a dragon burned my clothes off, and then you're good.
It's wild shape rules. Everything you're wearing or carrying merges with your form.
Oh,
yeah. See, I had a feeling Sean was looking at it like that. I had a feeling he was looking at it like that.
Well, shit, I might do a manticore because that's venom.
Dragon, if we're doing mythical beasts, you know. Other than that, if it has to be like a real world animal, some large bird that can fly.
Yeah.
You know, because why wouldn't you pick something that can fly? You know.
Well, all right. So, I'd pick a worm. I'd be a worm.
Oh boy's digging. He's going down.
Like an
earthworm. No, like an earthworm.
Earthworm?
Hold on. I think they had a prehistoric massive earthworm. Would you at least be a big one?
No. This is an earthworm, dude.
Just want to be.
I don't want to worry about like dinosaurs eating me or some shit. I just want to hang out.
Why are there dinosaurs?
He said a giant prehistoric earthworm. Or giant prehistoric worm? What do you mean?
Well, yeah, but you turn into that doesn't mean dinosaurs start popping up or you travel through time. You're weaving your time magic into this.
I'm weaving my time magic into this. I just want to be a normal fucking worm that's not gonna draw attention, so I can hang out in the mud. I just want to like eat mud and vibe, dude.
Dude, you would die if you just want to hang out in the mud and vibe. You can do that now as a human.
Not without getting judged about it. I'm gonna get judged for hanging out in the mud, dude. You wouldn't, but other people would.
Yeah.
If we came over one,
I'd be a worm from Trimmers. Like, I'd be a bastard. Is that what Kevin Bacon called him? He started calling them bastards.
No, they were graboids. You'd be a graboid.
Okay, yeah. Graboids.
My
No.
man's graboid.
I wouldn't be a
shit. That's
graboid. I would just be a normal earthworm. Alpha
Vinny
Omega
says one
suggested graboids,
rainstorm.
though.
Then he says one rainstorm in your bird food.
Hey, that's only if I'm stupid enough to come to the surface.
Well, you
I
drown
wouldn't
otherwise.
You drown.
No, I wouldn't. I'm
Then
a dragon. I'm
if
flying
I'm gonna,
above you going, look
when
at
it
that
starts
idiot.
raining, I just turn back into a person. It's wild shape rules.
All right, hey, I found
That's
the
true.
largest earthworm. It's the Microcatius rapi. Dude,
It's
these
a
things are
rapper?
wild. Yeah, dude.
Why not just
We'll
be
call you
Shai
little
Hulud?
micro. Yeah. Oh, dude, that's a worm. That's
Although
a
Shai
god
Hulud
worm.
wouldn't be able to. He wouldn't be able to dig around in Georgia. There's too much rock and stuff. You could be
Oh,
a
yeah,
purple worm from D&D.
Rock and stone.
Purple worms dig through that rock and stone like it ain't no thing.
Shai
and they
Hulud,
eat
you'd have to
people.
go live in like the Badlands or something. You'd have to. Sort
I
of,
would-
You just be in a desert.
I would just be a worm so I could vibe in the mud. All right. Is that okay? Can I just vibe?
Sure.
Can you guys let me just vibe?
Sure. You just want to go camping, Jordan? Get a little dirt vibe.
Yeah, but
Sounds
I
like a
like,
weird
but I
camp
like, I don't want a tent. I just want to like hang out in the mud.
You don't have to take a tent to camp. I've been on plenty of campouts where I just sleep on the ground.
I also don't want to like bring food. I just want to be able to eat the mud.
Oh, word?
Okay.
All right. Yeah. Jordan's gonna get
You know
trench
pregnant
foot,
women-
y'all.
Pregnant women sometimes eat dirt. 'Cause
All
they
right,
have weird.
and that's the end of the stream, folks.
All right. Lady facts with Ryan.
I'm just saying. I listened to a whole documentary about it one time. It was fascinating.
All right.
Yeah.
I like to learn
Alright.
things, man.
Yeah. No,
All
that's
right,
yep.
Dragon.
Yep. Cool. Anyway, if you guys want to hear our stupid responses to your questions, next week, I'm gonna put a post up after this stream, and you guys just respond to that post with your questions,
Oh yeah.
and we'll answer them next week.
Yeah, ask some stuff that'll make me question myself and or feel uncomfortable.
Yeah.
I want to be in the hot seat.
And if you guys want to see us play Old World or Age of Sigmar or any other game on stream, let us know. We've already talked about Gork and Worka, so I guess I'm
You
legally
promised
I guess I'm
Gork and
legally
Worka.
beholden to us playing Gork and Worka on stream. But yeah, any parting words,
Gubbins.
folks? Attorney Gubbins, baby. Is that your parting words?
Yeah, Attorney Gubbins is my prime words. We could also play, I don't know, like non-GW stuff if
Yeah.
people want to see it.
But what else
Oh
is
yeah,
there?
like
There's nothing.
Shatterpoint. We did a Shatterpoint.
We did
Battletech.
Shatterpoint, yeah. We'll do some more Shatterpoint.
Battletech.
There's a pretty big BattleTech community. I don't know how it
Pretty
compares
big.
to GW.
I don't. Pretty big might be generous.
Bigger than it has ever been before.
There's dozens of them. Dozens.
There was like, there was some people that like left Warhammer to go to BattleTech because they were upset. I can't remember what drama spurred that on, but
I mean,
they call themselves Warhammer refugees.
sure.
Jesus.
I wish
I can't remember what it
Okay.
was that did that.
Have fun, I guess.
But anyway, it's bigger than it's ever been before. So
Well-
all right. Well, there's Ryan's parting words. Matt, what you got?
Attorney Gubbins.
Bust out your square bases and keep your powder dry. At least that's what I'm gonna do because I'm playing Empire hard.
Hell yeah!
There we go.
All right. Remember to tune in on Saturday. We're doing our Horde mode stream. It's gonna be 7 p.m. Eastern. We're gonna be collecting money for Child's Play. So that'll be a great time. We don't know how long
Yeah.
it's gonna last, but it could last a while. So.
I do have something a little special for that stream.
Oh, Ryan got something special for that stream.
surprise.
Hell yeah.
Hell yeah.
Well, you don't want to miss Ryan's special surprise, so
Yeah.
Don't
See
get
you
too
all
hyped. It's not that
on
crazy.
Saturday for Ryan's special surprise.
Buckle up for Ryan's special surprise featuring Horde mode.
Bye.
Toodles.